One of the biggest concerns I have when looking at businesses, particularly businesses doing 7 figures and above, is that the vast majority of them are actually operating without a CEO. It's not that there's not somebody that doesn't call themselves the CEO, because there always is. It's just that the person that calls themselves the CEO is so busy doing everything, they're so deeply operationally entrenched that there's nobody creating the future. There's nobody overseeing the development of the organization, the team, and the infrastructure that sits within it. I call that building the engine. And there's nobody really leading the way with any real foresight, because everybody's busy doing. Now, that's going to be inevitable for a period of time, right? Now, when you start out, you're in the seed stage and startup stage, as a CEO, you probably do need to be doing everything, right? As you're building up team and you're building up resource, you're building revenues, building cash flows, I get that. But what I'm talking about is when you get to a point where you feel you have resources, be they cash and revenue that you can deploy against employing people, or you've got great people around you and you're still just stuck doing everything because that's the way you always did it, you're not operating as effectively as you could be. So what I'm sharing in this video are the 7 traits of all great CEOs that will enable you to elevate yourself out of the day-to-day operations of your business and focus on being a great leader, because your company and the world needs you to be. Being deeply operational is typically not an entrepreneur founder's highest and best use, right? These 7 things are. So let's jump into them. The 7 traits of all great CEOs. Number 1 is to have a deep understanding of market trends. Where is this market going? What's happening in the space? And I'm talking a time horizon of 3, 5, 7, even 10 years if you can form a bit of a picture. It's hard once you get that far out, but particularly over the next 3 to 5 years, where is the space going? What's the competitive landscape going to look like? You need to be the one with a far-reaching foresight of the future. The principle is this: the larger your business, the further your foresight should reach. Okay? Characteristic number 2, have a deep empathy for consumer. So even though a lot of what I talk about is how do you build structure and how do you build out team to elevate yourself to be a CEO, please understand what I am not saying is build yourself an ivory tower. That doesn't work. In fact, the larger your business becomes, the more team you have, the more customers you have. You might have investors, you might have profile, you might have a community and a database. There's more people in the ecosystem that you are building. You need to stay deeply connected to those individuals, particularly the consumer, right? And I don't just mean from a demographics, infographics, you know, we target females 35 to 45. That's not really good enough. You need to understand what's going on in their mind, psychographics. You need to understand what's going on in their heart. You need to understand what's going on in their soul. You need to understand the problems that they have, that they know they have. You need to understand the problems that they have that they don't know they have. You need to understand the problems they have that they know they have that they talk about, and the problems they have they know they have that they don't talk about, right? You need to understand more about your consumer than they understand about themselves when it comes to what your business does, right? And the products and the services that you offer and the buying decisions and the lead up, the psychographics that lead up to those buying decisions. The better you will understand your consumer, the better you'll be able to lead your business. The 3rd great trait of all great CEOs is to have a deep understanding of world's best practice, right? World's best practice. Now, what I mean when I say world's best practice is this: you wouldn't find an 8-year-old child that obsessed about growing up to being an NBA player, that didn't go to sleep every night with his or her basketball in the bed with them, and that didn't know the name Michael Jordan, right? It's really important that you know who the Michael Jordans are, be they companies or individuals, as they might relate to your company and the functions of your company. So you want to know who's the best in the world when it comes to companies in your industry. You want to know who's the best in the world when it comes to marketing, if we talk functions within companies, when it comes to marketing and branding, not just in your industry, but in all industries, and pick the best in the world that you want to reverse engineer and then make it your own. Who's the best in the world when it comes to sales processes and sales cycles that relate to how you do it in your business model? Who are the best people in the world at building products? Or if you're a service-based business, the best people in the world at building services, but then reverse engineering the services and bottling such that we're able to capture the magic so that the magic can scale, right? Who are the best in the world at that? Who is the best in the world at operationalizing businesses at your stage of the game? What's world's best practice when it comes to financial management at your stage of the game? What's world's best practice when it comes to culture? What's world's best practice when it comes to leadership, the kind of leadership that you want to emulate? Ask yourself, whenever you're obsessing about any particular area of business, ask yourself, who is the best in the world in this particular function or this particular industry or this particular business model, and go in search of understanding and reverse engineering what they are about. That leads us to trait number 4, which is connecting the dots of all of those top 3 things I just said: where the market's going, who the consumer is at a deep level, and what is world's best practice. Step number 4, or trait number 4, is join the dots to develop your high-level product strategy. Once you understand this is where the market's going, once you understand this is who our consumer is, and this is what world's best practice looks like, you're now informed, you've got dimension to your thinking to actually understand how are we going to be developing products. When I say products, I'm saying that inclusive of services, by the way. Because if you have a service, just look at it as a product. It needs to be in order for us to scale it. And so whether it's a product or a service, we're going to call it a product. But once you have all of those dimensions, you're going to understand what do we need to be building from a product perspective in order to be the market leader in this space, not only now, but over the next 3 to 5 years. That's going to enable you to do trait number 5 really well, which is provide cultural leadership, right? And notice I'm not talking business management. That's critical. It's so incredibly important. But I'm going to film another video about how we do that and enable that as a CEO. For now, I'm talking cultural leadership, which is you are the custodian and the reiterator of the vision and where the organization is going. You are the person that needs to remind people where we're going, why it's important. Every time we step closer towards fulfilling our vision, remind people of that. Remind people that our vision isn't a mirage out there that doesn't exist and it's a nice fantasy. This is a real thing that we are creating and we are achieving. As your organization grows, the need for vision and inspiration and the need for people to truly resonate at a deep level in terms of where we're going, are we actually getting there, and why is it important, only becomes increasingly crucial as the organization grows. Trait number 6, focus on the big problems and the big deals, right? Again, when a CEO is so deeply ingrained in all of the details, be it like office management or admin or whatever it might be, you don't have time to focus on the big problems and the big deals. Now, there's 2 different things. What I mean by big problems is it might be capital management, there might be cultural things that need to be fixed, there might be high-level product things that need to be fixed, there might be functions or departments in your business that aren't optimized, and somebody from a very high level, namely you, needs to go in and figure out what's going on in that department and perhaps break the structure so that the structure can rebuild in a way that's more conducive to who the business needs to be today, right? And so you want to focus on big problems, not the small ones. Your people, you should be employing and empowering and training and delegating, not abdicating, but delegating to people effectively to handle the more day-to-day operational stuff. I want you focusing on big problems. And then what I mean by big deals, I mean big partnerships. There might be big strategic partnerships. There might be big sponsorship deals. There might be huge customers or client accounts. I want you to think about being the instigator of them. You might even have a team around you that you know, you take it the first 10 or 20%, and then somebody else or a bunch of somebody else's takes it, you know, from 20 to 90, and then you come in to last mile it at the end. But you want to be focused on big deals as well. And then the 7th trait of all great CEOs is, of course, building and clarifying the vision of the company and the strategy. When we talk vision, we're talking long term, whatever that might mean for you. Vision for me is usually about 20 to 30 years in any particular company. For you, you know, the company that you're building might be a 5-year play, then create a vision for 5 years. The timeline is kind of secondary. You just want it to be long term according to your timeline. And then strategy is where are we going over the next 3 years? How are we getting there? And then particularly over the next 12 months, what's our operational plan? What are the key projects in each function of the business? What are the key milestones we need to achieve? What are the key KPIs we need to execute on in order to move us towards the vision. And so again, guys, as the CEO, you should be creating the future, right? And so vision, strategy, 12-month operational plan, that's all architecture that goes into aligning everybody, right? This is where we're going. In the absence of that, everybody's going off in their own directions. There is no leadership. I can't tell you how damaging that is for most businesses. If you just do the things I'm talking about in this video, your business changes forever. As an entrepreneur, founder, CEO, your capability and your ability to multiply your impact expands exponentially. It's a fucking game changer, right? And so you're creating the future. You're then building the engine, building the teams and helping put in the infrastructure and the KPIs required for the organization to run well. And then you're leading the way. That is what great CEOs do.